Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. Jessica and Rami, hello to you. And I'm
Hello.
excited to introduce our guest today, Cindy Colson. And she
Hello.
joins us from the UK. And I'm going to read her bio here for you. Cindy Colson is an eclectic pagan with strong Celtic roots. She's originally from South Africa, where for the past 25 years she has explored many modalities and journeyed down many paths in search of the truth. She's a trained Reiki, body balance activation and crystal therapist and rune reader, and she also uses intuition and is guided to adapt each treatment so that it best complements each client. Her boutique is Sage and Thyme. It's a natural magic boutique and a well-being studio, hosting yoga, meditation, breathwork, treatments, and more. It's a magical emporium that takes you back in time. She also has her own YouTube channel with two of her friends, and a little bit about that. It's called Coffee with Crones. And so she invites you to step into her enchanted realm as they unveil the mysteries of their magical lives. And they sit around the coffee table and share deep-rooted connection to nature and their reverence for the mystical arts. So there's more information, and I'll put it all down with her links below there. And for now, we'll go back. Cindy, before I get you ask you to tell your story for us, I just want to clarify in case there's any listeners that hear the word pagan. I even looked it up in the dictionary. I know that it means someone that lives close to nature, right? Has a relationship with nature. And, but of course, it's come in modern era to have a much more religious connotation. And so I just wanted to clarify that. I'm sure with your magic and energy work that you do, you mean it as an energy and close to nature. And if,
Absolutely.
yeah, and so anyway, but you can include talking about that if you want to. But please, Cindy, tell us how you have come to do the work you do.
Well, just an interesting thing about the word pagan. It stems from the word paganus, which is country dweller. And if you lived in the country, you needed to stay connected to what was around you, which is nature. You looked at the clouds to see what the weather was doing. You looked at when the berries were ripe, and you knew it was going to be a cold winter. That sort of thing. So, pagan is now an umbrella term for many other things. So under being pagan, you might find people who follow the Wicca tradition, the heathen tradition, and all sorts of other things. So pagan is sort of an umbrella term for anyone who follows a nature-based spiritual belief system, if
Okay.
that helps.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I knew part of that, but I'm so glad that you shared that to give us a better understanding. Very nice. I think I'm in that category completely. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So please, could you share some of your story with us?
My story is probably a very long and winding one, but like everyone's story, it sort of goes off and in and out and weaves around. But as you mentioned before, I'm from South Africa originally, and I think I, I I was always perceived as different, and I certainly thought. I think I know that I was as different from a very young age. I was always grubbing in the dirt, you know, talking to the plants, talking to the animals, and then you go through your teen years, don't you? And you all the hormones kick in, and you do the whole teenage thing, and you run around after boys for a while, and they get boring very quickly. So you find yourself back into nature again. And for me, it's always been about that connectivity between all living things, all living creatures. So I try, and I've got a lot of influence from one of my grandfathers was Buddhist. So I have I call myself eclectic, because a lot of the practices that he did, I probably have fallen into as well, or some of it's rubbed off. So there's a practice called ahimsa, which is harmlessness, which I try very hard to keep in mind when I'm dealing with things. Yeah, so sort of always known I was different. One of my good friends, actually, probably we were in our 40s, late 40s, and she said to me, "We always called you a witch anyway," she said. "I don't subscribe to labels. You can call me whatever you want to call me, type of thing. I just believe that because of the connectivity that we have, the true connectivity that we have, we are all everything all the time anyway. So I don't personally like to subscribe to labels, but because words are spelling is magic. So yeah, I'm pretty much one of those that will say, call me what you like. I know what I am anyway, and I am that essence, which is everything. And that sounds very conceited when it comes out of your mouth, but it isn't. It's actually quite humble in that I am the dirt, I am the sky, I am particles of everything. So yeah. So I always knew I was different. I had lots of imaginary friends that I talked to as a child. I've always been a bit of a loner. I've always been the weirdo, the weird one. And I think the path to a healer, it moves on from that, because I believe that anyone who is a healer is in that position because they have had to do a lot of healing, or is currently doing a lot of, or it helps, being a healer helps them heal, if that makes sense. I don't know if you ladies resonate with that, but I believe that every time I am doing or working with energy with the intention of healing someone or something, I do believe that at the same time I'm healing parts of me, because I am you and you are me, and therefore if I'm healing you, I'm healing me. Does that make sense?
Sure. Well, and I see it from the perspective, I work in the human biofield during sessions with clients. And so I'm very much aware that I am the biofield. I mean, because it contains all our memories, it contains our mind really is in the biofield. And it's, so we overlap when we work
Yeah.
together, even if it's by distance, by intention. You're here in my uh, living room where I work, and we're very close. We're overlapping, so definitely the sound and the intentions are healing both of us. Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I the healing portion of my journey was really just sort of, it just sort of flowed. I was going to a lady called Sophia Christie in South Africa, who does pretty much, she's like me, jack of all trades. She does a lot of different types of energy healing. And I started as part of her meditation group. And we would meet for 2 hours every Monday, and we did all sorts of different forms of meditation. But one night she said to me, "Cindy, you need to be doing more than this. There's more in store for you." And she was doing some Reiki training, and that's where I say that's where my foundation is. I trained with her in Reiki, and then in crystal therapy as well, crystal healing. And it just sort of evolved from there. I used to do all sorts of different things on my own anyway, and was always very in tune with energies in a room, energies of people. I've always been quite lucky in that I can almost see it. It's not like sort of a plant or something like that. It's not in your face, but if I sort of tune in, I can almost see energy, and it's really a difficult thing to describe. So I think I've always been. It's part of who I am, because I am energy and you are energy, so we are energy anyway. It's something that I did. I think when I was really small, I would pick up animals, and like even now, I can feel my hands are super hot. I need to release energy, and then I would pick up animals and hold animals, or hold different things, and the intention was always like a download of energy into the other thing. So I did that always. I can't even begin to think of when it started, because it was always what I did. And then the Reiki made sense, because that sort of fine-tuned it, or put it into some sort of program or order for me. And then since coming to the UK, I've trained again in something called body balance activation, which was developed. The founder is Tracy White, and she has the Energy Center in South Africa. But she traveled to the UK. She trained. There's 5 of us in the UK that are trained BBA, or body balance activation, and she developed it from her Reiki practices. So that's another whole interesting format for delivering energy healing, using accessing different energy, if that makes sense, or different forms of energy. And then it just continued. I've always loved crystals. Right now I'm sitting on the chair, and I've got a golden healer pulling in, and a smoky quartz pulling out. So forming a bit of a conduit, just to connect with the energies, and so on. So there's always this on my device that's filming. There's a big piece of shungite, getting all the waves, bashing them out of my way. And so yeah, I'm still currently actually training with crystal therapy, and I don't think you can ever complete your training with it, because there's so much to know. Just, it's like a rabbit hole once you go down into crystal training. But yeah, I'd like to start my own like crystal training academy. Is the hope that I'll be able to do that.
Oh, very cool. Yeah. Very neat. Just to talk about crystals a little bit more, right before we started, I had mentioned to you that I was making a crystal grid in my garden. And so I drew it out as 2 infinity loops, and I'm setting it up. My husband and I are both Aquarius. And so both of them will be Aquarius stones, but then we have different moons. So I'm using those also. And so last night I was figuring out, well, which crystals would go in which hole and stuff. And then it was like, oh, but I have this one in another part of the house. So I grabbed it, and then it was like other things were wanting to go into it. And then so this morning I was holding each one and saying, okay, do you want to go outside or do you want to stay inside? And of course, if I have them outside, it's with the intention that they're always inside too, right? That energy covers the whole yard, which would cover our house too. And so it was like almost all of them wanted to go outside. It was like, whoop, my head turned to that'd be to the south, which would be outdoors. So it
Yeah.
was fun. So a wide
Do
variety of
you
crystals.
do you dig up the crystals after the season?
I'm not going to. I wanted to make it practical. And maybe Cindy, you'd have some guidelines too, or something that if other people have ideas, maybe I'm just kind of doing it as, according to my own intuition and what is practical. But I'm leaving them what I'm doing. So I dug a fairly shallow hole, and then I put sand in the bottom for drainage, and then I'll push the crystals so they're into the sand. And then what I'm doing is pouring concrete cover over it, because concrete also, as a natural porous material, it'll transfer the energies. And so then I'm going to draw the infinity loops on top of the concrete while it's wet. And then in the center, I'm going to stick a copper pole to help, I don't know, pull up the energies from the crystals, as well as bring in the energy from the atmosphere into them. So, but I'm just going to leave it because I have so much garden work to do. I just want to have it there all year round to make use of the energy. So I don't know. You have any
Sounds
thoughts
good.
on that, Cindy? Or
Yeah,
Raymond,
it
Jessica?
sounds really interesting, because I think the wonderful thing about energy work and healing and all of that is that we just go with the flow, just follow what feels right in the moment. I tend to, we've got the celebration of Lunasa or Lamas on the 1st of August. And I plan to a certain degree, and then the rest I just find flows. And I think there's an absolute beauty in the freedom that is, you know what I mean? With crystal gridding and that, I've got different grids. I don't have them anywhere close by that I can show you, but like I will use a lot of the flower of life, for instance, because I'm about that connection and that connectivity, and that we all stem from this and that. And so I use a lot of that grid. And I tend to, sometimes I don't even plan when I'm going to do it. It'll just be all of a sudden, out of the blue. I might be doing something completely different, and it'll just strike me. Oh, you're going to build a grid. Oh, right. And I just haul all sorts in, and there might be some flowers on the grid. There might be crystals on the grid. There might be some bones. I'm one of those people who, if I find some poor being, that's sort of creature that's perished, and there's a couple of bones to be had, I'll come and collect them. I'm looking at the moment at my desk, because I'm making a mobile out of bones, and in honor of that creature that lived, you know what I mean? To me, it's not macabre. It's a celebration of the cycle of life. And remember that we are bones. We are a bag of bones. So there's feathers and bones and all sorts. But with gridding, a lot of people make beautiful, beautiful sort of mandala-like grids. I tend to just go where it takes me. And that sounds really, really interesting, because you've got all the aspects, you know, together there with the crystals underneath the ground. I wouldn't have thought of pouring concrete on it, but again, you want to making your infinity symbol in there. I might even press, if I were you, maybe press some sort of imprints of maybe your hands in there, or your feet, you know, just really personalize it, and
Okay.
some fern leaves or something. And I probably, but everyone says I'm a bit special and I'm a bit OTT, but I would probably put crystals in the top as well, sort of, so that they out to the light as well. but I believe that everything we do is right. There's no right and wrong. You know what I mean? I do believe that when we're working instinctively and we're working with a positive intention, there's absolutely no wrongs. It's all about intention, and magic is the same. It stems from the intention. A lot of people come in, customers in the shop, well, I'm scared to do this because I'm worried it could go wrong. And then I say, well, if it comes from there, it can't go wrong. You know what I mean? If it's from your heart and the intention is positive, there's no ways it can go wrong.
It's true.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, I like the idea of pressing some crystals in the top too in the concrete. I might do that. I'll see how it lays out. I really put it concrete over the top because my husband does the mowing. I wanted it to be easy for him and wouldn't have to worry about messing it up. So I think he'll be able to mow around it without removing the copper pole. But if he can't, all he would have to do is pull it up, run the mower, push the pole back in. And
Yeah.
so I have 13 crystal points, like four petals to a flower basically, and then the center. So,
yeah. And are you placing the points all going around or are you placing them pointing upwards?
well, I don't know exactly what you meant by around or upward. I have as accurate as I could with I didn't use a compass or anything, but just doing eyeballing it, doing north, south, east, west. And then I was kind of doing crystals at the tips of each flower, and of course one in the center, and then at the fullness, so like the midpoint of each of the petals.
Right. Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Lovely.
So anyway, could you tell us more about the body balance? Did I say that right?
Body balance activation. So Tracy White, it's also like weird how I came to be a body balance activation therapist. So I worked for a while in a little cafe near some fishing lakes, and there was this lady one day, and she came in and she was having a meal on her own, and I served her, and I could hear that from the accent that she was South African, and she obviously realized that I was, and we got talking. Anyway, it transpired beautifully that we formed a friendship, and it's her sister who is the body balance activation founder, and she told me about this, and I said, oh, I did Reiki and I did crystal therapy, and she said, would I like to experience it? So off I went to her house one evening after work, and she did this treatment, and how it differs from Reiki is a lot of it is spoken. So we speak the intention, whereas with Reiki, we sort of switch it on and just let it flow, and we're guided to do various things during the practice. This is very, very specific, and it is like an energy dance, or it feels that way to me anyway. So in the beginning, we speak the intention that all healing is merely a direction of energy and a moving of energy in a positive way, and that we can all access it. So we set that intention verbally out loud, and the client, we actually ask the client, do they agree with the statement? And they say yes, because they're there at the treatment. And then for each of the body parts, the client will choose, we have cards, the client will instinctively choose 6 to work from, we set a similar intention, and we set the intention to balance and connect parts of the body back and bring them back into natural states of being and balance, and healing. And but we do that out loud, and we use the word now. And when Tracy developed this this healing method, she did so in a very clever way. The words that we speak are numerologic. I can't get the word out. Are like in numerology, they add up to certain numbers. So
Right.
In the beginning, we also open a portal called the Portal of Lashar, and we open a template, a body template, which is a pentagram on the body. And the words we speak at the beginning are very specific, and the 3 words we go is now we begin. And if you add those letters up, it is a 9. So it's almost as if we finished as we started. It's already complete. And then at the end of the session, we say we are complete. But all during the session, you are bringing systems and body parts into balance, and you're using the word now. We say, we're bringing this into balance now. So that it makes it really as if it's already happening. So it's really about positive affirmation, and putting it into the system at that point. She developed 5 different levels, so also working from the physical body, emotional body, and up into higher templates. So it's quite a complex system, but when you learn it and you carry out the movements and the hand movements over the body, it's like a beautiful dance. It's just you can get sort of lost in the healing with just the different movements and how you move around the body. And then at the end of the session, we close, as I say, we close that template in the sort of reverse. I'm not always good with the English words. Reverse directions. So in the beginning, we open it, and then we reverse those directions or hand postures to close the template, seal it in, and end the healing. So it's like an elevated Reiki session, shall I say. And you can find out more about it. I mean, she's got a wonderful website that explains all her thinking processes of how she developed it. There's a lot of information on body balance activation. And clients in particular say they see the most beautiful colors. It's a very visual sort of, they get a lot of visual feedback when they are sort of lying down there receiving the healing. And there's only out of the hour, there's only about 20 minutes where you don't talk out loud. It's all very calm, but everything is, I heal this now, and you're speaking the intention of healing out aloud all the time.
Oh, that's neat and very interesting. Yeah. Do you do it by distance, or have you just done it in person?
You can, like with Reiki, you can do it with distance. I haven't actually done body balance myself distance. I do a lot of my Reiki sessions and my crystal sessions I do distance, but the body balance I haven't done so much distance, although it is absolutely possible to do. I just haven't done it, not for any specific reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Jessica and Rami, you have any questions for Cindy or thoughts about?
No, it sounds fascinating. Body balance. So it's Reiki with words, right? And intention.
Yeah, you're using very similar energies or you're
Right.
using energy in the same way. I did mention the portal of Lashar, which is a portal that is accessed and energy is beamed through that. So
Bashar
it's
the healer.
sorry.
Bashar the healer. Bashar the healer. We have a gentleman here in the USA that his name is Bashar, and that's who he channels. And he's been doing it for 30 years. And I can't think of, oh yeah, look him up. It's
I will
Bashar.
do.
Yeah. And he's been channeling for 30 years, and he's always on webinars, and he has his own channel, I think, on YouTube. But yeah, that's what he does.
So there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
She Tracy, when she was putting this together, this is what she channeled, this portal of Lashar and getting the energy through there. So although it's very similar to Reiki, it's
Right.
I would say slightly, it's from a different source.
Right. Yeah.
No, it can't be from a different source because all energy is energy. So it's difficult to describe. Do you know what I mean? But
yeah. Well,
this portal.
yeah, and it's focused on Bashar.
Yes.
Yeah. I guess we could do that with any Reiki session.
Yeah.
I mean, I could take Metatron, since I love him.
Absolutely.
And just invite him in and see how powerful that would be. That would be good. Yeah. Huh. Interesting. I might try that.
I was curious. You'd said you lay a pentagram or grid or something on the person, or have them lay on it. Is there I guess just going to numerology, I just kind of dabble in a lot of things. Like I dabble in crystals and I dabble in numerology, trying to just have the basic information about it. And but so is it, say perhaps that'd be 5, right? A pentagram, is that for change? 5 points.
5 is about movement and change. So numerology is 5, movement and change. But the pentagram is obviously we don't lay them on it, whatever. We touch points in the body. So you've got your 2 hands and your 2 feet and your top of your head.
Oh, would
so
be
we're opening
pentagram. Okay.
We're drawing a pentagram on them by touching their head, going across. Do you know what I mean? And touching the point.
Yeah.
In the form of a pentagram, and that is how she was guided to open. And she's called it opening the template, opening that person's unique template, so that we can work, and then closing that template up and feeling the healing in.
Yeah, very neat. Very interesting.
And then words like "we are complete" or "now we begin." Those, the letters add up, and so that will mean something in numerology. She's sort of really taken every aspect of the treatment and made it. There's an intention to everything. There's an intention to all the words spoken and everything. So it's like I say, it's a very prescriptive format that you follow, but that sometimes, even for someone like me who's really intuitive, when they're doing a session, it's sometimes so nice because it's so guided that you just sort of you can almost go into a little trancey sort of state, just because you know what comes next, And it flows really, really beautifully. It does feel like a lovely dance.
Well, very cool. Yeah, I hadn't heard of that before. It sounds really nice.
Like I said, there's only 5 of us in the UK that are practitioners of this. But do look her up. She's Tracy White of the Energy Healing Centre in South Africa.
Okay, I'm gonna write that down, Tracy White. And this, if you want to, anyway. I had a question. You said you had just been out in your garden this morning. What's your favorite part of your garden?
Oh, so straight away, the fish pond. I have a tiny little fish pond in the front, and I guess it must be something to do with the fact that I'm Piscean, but I can watch fish all day. I absolutely, my little highlight of the day is going down and sprinkling the food there, and they're so used to me doing it, they just swim around. I can sit and watch the fish for ages. I do find a lot, it's like a little meditation. It's like a meditation just watching them. But saying that, I love my garden. I can't even express how much it's the first thing I do in the morning is, okay, I have to give Paul a sort of a good morning kiss, and then I'm out. And it's just, where there's green, there's joy for me. I know everything that's about to come into bud. I know everything that's about to blossom. I know everything that's about to seed. I know each and every one and what they're up to. Yeah, it's just, it's such a creative outlet, and it's in my 30s I discovered that growth and change are what ignite that spark, that kundalini sparky energy within me. Is if I can grow something, or if I can change something for the better, that gives me the buzz, that gives me my joy. And the garden is the best place for that. Even in South Africa, I had a farm which in square meters was like about 6,000 square meters. So like more of a small holding. And I grew my own food. And when I moved in, the trees, it hadn't been lived in for over a year. So it was in a state. The soil was terrible. And I worked every square meter of that place till it was like amazing. And that's what I like to do, is create little areas. It's like sacred space, you know, little sacred areas within a garden. The whole world is your temple, but you can have little special bits in it. I think the pond to me is a little special area where I can just sit and be with my thoughts and be with myself, and it's, even though I live on quite a busy road out front, it just calms me.
Yeah, very nice. Very nice. My garden this year is well, every year is different, right, in a garden, because the weather's different and the plants have grown, and so it's always experimentation in some way, or creating, seeing what you're creating this year. We've had, I'm not complaining about it, we've had so much rain this spring, so much more than we usually do. But on the other hand, there is many more weeds in the garden, right? And usually I can catch up with the weeds in a space of time before all the produce happens. but this year, because of all the rain, there was no time to catch up with the weeds, and so it's like, I don't know. Sometimes I'm okay with it, and then other times I look at it and like, oh, I would like it to look nicer. And
Yeah.
but it's all good, right? So
Something interesting. My grandmother, my maternal grandmother, she was head lecturer at the Theosophical Society for most of her life, and she and my uncle had to leave South Africa. They were in exile for quite a lot of my life. They had to move to New Zealand because of the political situation and because they supported equality for everyone. And so they had to leave and went off to New Zealand. But when things opened up again, she was able to come back and visit. But of course, then the last time I saw her was when I was 9, and then the next time you see her, you're an adult, you're in your 30s. So it was, although we wrote long letters to each other, it was reestablishing that relationship. So she visited me at my small holding, and I'm very proud of what I achieved there and everything, and I think it's quite lush, and I like a bit of a wild garden, like you say, you know. Sometimes you just can't control everything, so you just let it go a little bit. And she sort of stood there with her cup of tea, and she looked over my garden, and I was very proud of my garden. She said, "The garden is a reflection of the soul, and your, my dear, is a mess."
oh.
But I think there's so much interesting, and we talk about intuition and that. There's so much that can be learned from the garden.
Yes.
We were talking on Coffee with Crones, we were talking about this in one of the sessions, but you know, you sort of talk about this and you know it in the back of your mind, you know that you agree with this, but you're sort of busy and you don't hear it. Anyway, it was really interesting. This year, for the first time, I've noticed a lot of self-heal in my front lawn. I thought, oh, that's nice. All of a sudden, I've got self-heal, but didn't twig, because I'd been saying in the previous video, oh, beware of, notice what grows in your garden, because it's got a message for you, and that's what you need. So I'm sort of noticing I've got self-heal, but not really thinking, well, if I've got self-heal, what's the message it's telling me? I need to take a look at the self and heal it, right?
Right.
And then about 3 weeks ago, we also had an incredibly rainy spring. So much rain, unusual. I mean, UK gets a lot of rain, and Lancaster, which is where I live, is the second rainiest place in the UK. So yay, Lancaster. But so I hadn't caught up with my weeds either, is what I'm trying to say. But I
Thank you.
the weed that was prevalent, and I'd always had little bits of it, but not this much. And that completely took over was bindweed.
Yeah.
It just comes and it sort of chokes and strangles everything. And
Yes.
I just noticed all my poor roses, all my healing herbs in this front patch just behind me here, is where I grow all the medicinal stuff. It was all choked. It was all literally bound.
Yes.
And I thought, right, I'm going to get to us. Anyway, for the last couple of days, while the weather's been good, I've been pulling out bindweed, and I'm digging, and I'm on my hands, and I'm sweating, and I'm cursing this bindweed. And I sort of stand up, and just then this penny dropped. Ding. What is the message? What or who is binding you? The garden is speaking, my dear. Listen, listen, listen. And I just held the bindweed that I'd been pulling out and just sat and thought about things and the self-heal. And I thought, right, you've got two things growing in your front garden now that are trying to talk to you. And what are they saying? You know, and then I had a good chat with myself. Myself, the bindweed, and the self-heal all had a little chat together. But your garden speaks to you. And it's so important to listen to the messages. You know, I've moved into a new property, and it was a very, very formal, controlled garden to begin with, but we're very sparse, just lawn at the back. There was nothing, and I've created little herb garden and whatever. And the back, I said, was going to be all edible. But the herb that has grown and seeded itself and is all over is lemon balm. And it's the herb that you need most for your system. I believe it's the one that will keep following you around, you know. And the two that grow for me are feverfew and lemon balm, and they're the two that I use. I was diagnosed. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, but I don't suffer from it. I don't, you know, I manage it beautifully. And those are the two herbs I always need, is my lemon balm and my feverfew. So go into your garden and sit there and see what it says to you. That's what I tell people to do. And then you get so busy you don't listen to your own advice until it slaps you around the head. Oh, look at all this bindweed. What is binding you? Or who is
Really,
binding?
yeah, that's great. Except for I wanted to say about bindweed, from what I've heard about it and from my experience, because there's tons of bindweed. This is the first year we've had bindweed prolific in our garden too, and it must be because of the rain. But in other parts of Kansas where I've lived, there's always been tons of bindweed, and it's like it doesn't really help to dig it because it spreads so prolifically from the roots that cutting it in half, you have one stem and you cut it in half, and then you have two that grow. And so I don't know a good way to get rid of it. I mean, I don't spray in the garden, right? I'm not going to do that, but it does. It chokes out so much and takes over.
Yeah.
So,
well, I've just cleared it off all the main plants and cleared out what I can, dug out what I can.
yeah.
You just got to keep on it. I don't think you'll ever get rid of it.
Right. Yeah, I think I agree. I made a tea that I really like, thinking about things in the garden, right? And so I hadn't put all these together, but I was putting them together for a friend of mine to send her a little bag for her birthday. And so I decided, okay, well, that would be good together. And she was kind of being stressed at the time. So I put in passion flower leaf, which is one of my very favorites. And then I put in yarrow because it grows wild in the yard all over. And that's good for pain. And mint, I have tons of mint, and that's good for calm and relaxing, right? And then I put in chamomile. No, I didn't put in hers in chamomile. I put chamomile in mine afterwards. I made a separate batch for me. And hibiscus flower and rose petal. And my husband and I just love it. We've been having it every evening at bedtime, and it's just lovely tea.
Yeah, that sounds really lovely. Yeah, I have a lot of rosemary, lemon balm, and the feverfew, and those all help me balance and keep calm calm and relaxed, I think.
Oh, great. Yeah. So the feverfew, though, how does it taste? I mean, I'm assuming you use it as a tea, or do you take it a different way?
Yeah, just as a tea. Feverfew to me has got that sort of, it's not pleasant, and that's why I blend other things into it. The lemon balm seems to override it and mask it, but it's just quite a green, earthy. It doesn't taste like most herbs, if you know what I mean. Herbs can be aromatic, they can be fragrant, they can be citrusy. So you've got all those different things going on. It's not. It tastes like it smells. It's quite. I don't know how to describe it. It's
Bitter? Is it bitter?
it's like that pungent, bitter sort of taste, and it just tastes like you're drinking green plant. Really, it hasn't got a. To me. Other people might experience it differently, but to me, I don't think I like the taste very much, but it has phenomenal benefits. So I whack a lot of that in. It is really brilliant for that. Another one I use for muscle relaxant, because my muscles tend to get inflamed and into quite a lot of spasm most of the time, is bergamot. Beautiful, beautiful antispasmodic, lovely, relaxing tonic.
That's interesting.
It's got that slight citrusy. You know, they use bergamot in the Earl Grey tea.
Okay.
It's that lovely taste to it. And that's not as citrusy as your lemon balm, but I do love lemon balm. It's just a beautiful, beautiful herb, and it just keeps giving and giving. I mean, I've got it growing everywhere in the back, and the bees love it. They're on at the moment. The bees are on the borage, and the lemon balm, and the oregano is just coming into bloom. And when that blooms, the bees are just everywhere. So, yeah.
Sounds great. Yeah. I was wondering too if you could tell us more about your boutique. I've seen pictures. I've watched several of your podcasts, right, of your Coffee with Crohn's, and in some of them, you give glimpses of your business. At least I'm assuming it's your store, and so it looks lovely. Could you tell us more about it?
So yeah, it's called Sage and Thyme, and it is Sage and Thyme Natural Magic Boutique and Wellbeing Studio, because underneath, what you haven't seen in any videos is underneath is a basement where we do the yoga, the meditation, and so on. It's my little happy place, really. I started teaching meditation. I was lucky enough to have a very large home, and we had plenty of space. We had one room which was very, very large, and I turned it into a meditation studio. And I started hosting meditations at home. I also have very sensitive skin and had eczema over most of my face and over most of my body, eczema and psoriasis. And I just thought I'm going to start really looking at what I'm eating for both of the conditions, and also B, what I'm putting onto my skin. And I started researching natural remedies. We've got a lovely lady in South Africa called Margaret Roberts, and she is the sort of herbal lady who makes all her own skincare, and I started looking at her recipes, started looking at Victorian recipes, and anyway, I started making my own soaps, shampoos, skincare, and people said, "Oh, your skin's looking great. Oh, your skin's, oh, what are you using?" And I'd say, "I'm using my own stuff." And eventually it was, "Can you make me a pot?" And eventually I was giving pots away for birthdays, presents, and so on. Then I was having a stall, and was living in Lancaster, and a friend said to me, "Oh, I've got just the right place for us to have a shop." And that's how it started, really. I now have a full wall of all my lotions and potions, including my tea blends. I do lots of different blends. So we've got moon time mama for when you're on your moon time, and when you, if you struggle from PMT, and you know, you have a lot of pain during your cycles. We've got Meno tea for when you're going through menopause. We've got, so I do all sorts of blends, and we've got a whole wall of products and things now. I make all the soaps, the hair shampoos, and everything is as natural as possible. My skincare creams are based on an old Victorian recipe, with when you take an infusion and a water infusion and an oil infusion, and you combine the two at the right temperature, you get a phenomenal cream with that. And my what I use to set things is beeswax, and I've got a friend who's got a hive, so I literally get the beeswax in these big chunks from her hive. So yeah, just really, really love. It's another way of expressing my creativity. I make all the candles for the shop, all the pagan paraphernalia, like I call it. So wands and staves and little bath time rituals I put together. It's my little bliss.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. And I do sell quite a lot of crystals as well, obviously being a crystal therapist. When I moved to Lancaster, there wasn't any place at all selling crystals or anything holistic.
Wow.
So yeah, Lancaster was a bit barren with spiritual things where that was concerned, and I think it's to do with the history of the witch trials and things. I think a lot of that has gone underground. People who do practice magic or anything like that have certainly don't talk about it too much. So yeah, there's a little bit of a thing about Lancaster's quite closed to spirituality, but since I opened, which was 2016, 2 or 3 other shops have popped up. Some of them have closed again, and then now recently in the last week, another little shop has opened up. So I've yet to go and introduce myself and go, "Hello, hi," and see what she's selling as well. But yeah, it's Lancaster's a really interesting place, and I love being my shop is, you have to walk up quite a steep hill to get to it. It is the route the witches were walked up that road when they were on the way to their hanging. So the pub where they had their last pint before they went off to be hung is a couple of blocks down from me. You walk up this nice hill, and then just further up where I had my original house in Lancaster was where they call the hanging field, where the witches were hung. Yeah.
That's so sad. Wow.
It's part of our history, you know, and how, go back to my big thing is, I always say knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. And when you don't know or you don't understand something, that you become fearful of it. And I think that was just, it was really sad that
Yeah.
people were so fearful of what they didn't understand.
Well, and from what I had read, I don't know if this is, I can't say it's true or not. It's just things that I've read that really it was at the time when the Protestant churches were more on the rise, and so the Catholic Church chose the persecution of witches or energy workers and things, right, as a way to draw people more into their side. So they, if that's true, they would have encouraged all that fear, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah, absolutely.
so
Like I say, I don't, it's awful, absolutely awful. And we're so blessed and lucky to live in this time where it isn't that much of an issue. Or I know that it is an issue in some places still, but I feel quite blessed to be in Lancaster where there's all this history, and to be open about my practices, and to be who I am and do whatever I fancy doing. I'll walk down the street with feathers tucked into my hair and symbols drawn on my face. I really am a bit special. um, my friends have a good laugh, because I might wake up one morning and decide, well, I love different color mascaras, and then I'll go, oh, I'll just do my eyebrows with the blue mascara or the purple mascara or the green mascara, and then I might draw on my forehead with an eyeliner, and I just think, do you know what? Let's just let everyone just be, and just celebrate everyone's uniqueness.
yeah, beautiful.
So yeah, I'm really blessed to live in Lancaster at this time. I may have had another lifetime in Lancaster where I wasn't so lucky. So.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that thought had come to me not about you, but about me, because when you were talking about that and the hill and the pub and the hanging grounds, it was like, I was real happy before, and all of a sudden this heavy anger settled on me and stuff. And I thought, whoa, now I haven't felt that before in reading or hearing or talking about, that part of our history. And so I was wondering, wow, well, maybe that had to do because you were talking about specifics in Lancaster, and I was connected or with someone who had been there or had been myself. However, all of that works, right, in the spiritual world.
Mm.
Interesting. Yeah.
Something to investigate.
Yeah, maybe so. Rainey, did you hear that?
What was it?
Something to investigate. When
I
we work
will.
together again.
Yeah, I will.
We'll see. So I think we've kind of reached our end of our time here that we usually do. So Cindy, is there any other last thought you want to leave with people, or with your website or your store address, or anything you'd like to leave?
You can find me at Coffee with Crones on YouTube, and then on Facebook we are Sage Time Boutique on Facebook and Instagram. But what I'd like to leave you with, which is what my granny leaves me with, another one of her quotes is to trust life. You are doing exactly what you're supposed to doing every single moment at any given time. So just trust life.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you so much for being here, Cindy. And
thank you for having me. I've enjoyed it. I was very nervous to sort of sit here and talk and think, oh, what have I got to say? What have I got to say? And especially with the tech, I was like, oh my goodness, setting everything up. But yeah, I hope that's been enjoyable for you guys as well. I've enjoyed chatting to you. We'll have to have you on Coffee with Crones sometime.
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah, that would be great. That would be great. Yeah, I've so much enjoyed having you here, and I'll just thank you everyone for watching. And if you have want to check out Cindy's boutique and Cindy's Coffee with Crones, I hope you do so. I've enjoyed those too. And so we'll see y'all next week.
Bye.